I'm just a pill, yes, I'm only a pill, and I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill, whirling and slow, on our journey to the capital city. It's a long, long week while I'm sitting in committee, but I know I'll be alone. Maybe after I hope and pray that I'll, but today I'm
Good morning. This is Bill Scher on the Liberal Oasis radio show, WHMP, News, Information, and the Arts. And I'll reiterate that John McCain is running the worst presidential campaign in modern memory. The problem with that, from my perspective, is so many stupid things will happen in a given week that you can't focus on one. And it doesn't necessarily gain the traction that other slip-ups would, ideally. At least this week, there was a big one that got a lot of attention, which is McCain's one of his chief economic advisors, Phil Gramm, delightfully sharing with us that we make up a nation of whiners because we tend to like our economy to be good. That is asking too much, in the words of Phil Gramm. But another thing that McCain said this week, that even if it didn't get a lot of attention right now, don't be surprised if it ends up in some advertising later on. John McCain saying that the fact that in Social Security, we are paying present-day retirees with the taxes paid by young workers in America today, that apparently, in McCain's words, is a, quote, absolute disgrace. It's just the entire foundation that the Social Security program was based upon by Franklin Delano Roosevelt 70 years ago, but McCain thinks that's an absolute disgrace. That's because he hates Social Security. He does not like this program. That does not make him special amongst conservatives. Conservatives have never liked Social Security. The difference is that McCain will start with some straight talk. In 2004, he explicitly said that he thought privatization, quote-unquote privatization, would be necessary to salvage this broken program. But then when called upon that, when pressed on that, during this campaign, he said in the town hall, I'm not for, quote, privatizing Social Security. I never have been and I never will be. Because he knows he halfway learned the lesson that George Bush did when George Bush tried to privatize Social Security, that no one wants it. People like Social Security as it is. They like that it's a government program. They like that it's been reliable for 70 years. And when the facts come out that it's actually in structurally sound shape for the next 70 years, no one is very inclined to throw the whole thing out. So he admits he thinks the entire program's foundation is an absolute disgrace, and then he's pressed upon, and he says, oh, no, I didn't mean to say that. I meant the fact that the next generation of workers isn't going to get their benefits is what's an absolute disgrace. Well, that's wrong, too. That's not even straight talk. That's just false. This is a potentially huge problem for McCain if it becomes wider known. And the only reason why it might not have become wider known, it was just sort of building up some steam, and then Phil Gramm opened up his trap, and that was just too delicious for people to let go. But McCain is holding on. He's in somewhat shouting distance of Obama in national polling. 6 to 8 points. He was 6 points in the recent Gallup poll. He was 8 points in the recent Pew poll, behind Obama. Some people say that's better than it should be expected considering the disastrous year Republicans are having. But the one thing that McCain's been able to hold on to is that he is beating Obama amongst seniors. That is not necessarily typical for a Republican. But I would presume if those seniors knew McCain's deep, long-standing hatred for Social Security, the one fallback McCain has would fall away. So we'll see if some of McCain's quotes make it into some political advertising later on in the year. Other interesting thing apart this week, and this is a theme of mine from last week, there's still some residual concern, I think, amongst the left as far as the direction of Obama's campaign is going. When Obama has said things that have not been particularly liberal, people have jumped on them and expressed their frustration. And everyone's got every right to do that. I have a couple complaints. One is that I think it's a falsehood to say that he has moved rightward. He has generally just restated positions he had previously taken, with the lone exception of the FISA bill. And so I think it's false to say that he is changing positions for political reasons because the primary is over. He's got to reach a new pool of voters. And I think it's wrong to leave an impression that a candidate has to move rightward in order to win the general election. That undermines our ability to articulate what the mandate from the public is. As part of that, I think it's totally appropriate to criticize Obama when necessary, when appropriate. He should not think he can do whatever. They can take people for granted. It's important to know that the people who have given him money in the grassroots expect that their principles at least be respected. But at the same time, you don't want to ignore the times that Obama is articulating liberal progressive principles and pretend they didn't happen, because that is going to undermine, assuming he wins, undermine the ability to say that is the reason why he won. We want to be able to say that the actual reason why he won are the big programs and principles that he has staked his candidacy on. So, for example, this is a comment he made just this week. We're in the full general election swing. This is what he had to say about predatory lending, comparing his position to John McCain's.
Like George Bush, Senator McCain does not believe the government has a real role to play in protecting Americans from unscrupulous lending practices.
In Georgia, campaigning in Georgia, Barack Obama attacked John McCain for not believing in a role for government in regards to lending practices. I have not heard in a very long time an explicit embrace of a role for government, our government, from a presidential candidate in a very long time. So here is Barack Obama's response to Phil Gramm. Graham's charged that we're a nation of whiners for not being thrilled with the current collapsing economy. This is what Barack Obama had to say about that.
This economic downturn is not in your head. When people are out there losing their homes and property values are declining, that's not a figment of your imagination. And it isn't whining to ask government to step in and give families some relief.
It isn't whining to ask government to step in. I mean, this is, I think, basic for most Americans. Most Americans embrace capitalism, embrace a private market, but also expect that for capitalism to work well, it requires a robust public sector to be a part of it, and to ensure that we don't let irresponsible corporate behavior run roughshod over us, that we make investments in our infrastructure, investments in clean energy, education, healthcare, things that don't just happen on their own. Obama is making that case publicly. And that should be noted. To ignore it is this is not just to help Obama win. This is to help ourselves. And being able to tell the very thick-headed media that has a knee-jerk bias in assuming that anything involving government will be rejected by the public, because the conservative noise machine has created this false narrative that this is a fundamentally right-wing country.